Hello everyone and welcome back to Football Manager 2021 and a brand new experiment today where we're putting a 20-year transfer embargo on the top 5 leagues in Europe and any other European team with a reputation above 7,000. So all of the big clubs in Europe, I'm going to upset some people if they don't now have a transfer embargo, but all of the big clubs in Europe do now have a transfer embargo on them for 20 years. So you can see here with Arsenal, they are rich, but they have a transfer ban until 2040. So they're looking at 20 years of not being able to sign players. And as you can see, this is the same for every club in the Premier League. And then if we go and have a look quickly at La Liga, start with Athletic Bilbao, transfer ban. This applies for absolutely everybody in these big leagues, and it also Bundesliga, they're all caught as well. Start with Cologne or Köln. You can see transfer ban. Serie A, if we pick a random team like Crotone and look at them, this is mostly me checking that I haven't accidentally missed somebody, because they're going to have a massive advantage if I have. But even Dijon here, also under a transfer ban. And it doesn't stop there in the Portuguese Premier League. Only the bigger clubs, so Benfica, if we have a look at them, transfer ban. Anybody above 7,000, so Zenit St. Petersburg, league's not loaded, but they have a transfer ban. Other teams to have transfer bans, even in Belgium, I think Club Bruges, is it, that have a transfer ban? Yeah, Club Bruges have a transfer ban as well. And then down to the Eredivisie, of course, Ajax also have a transfer ban. So this is an opportunity for all these other clubs to come back, and it really does go down. I'm wondering, I can't remember if Salzburg were the cut-off. Let's have a look. Yeah, so Salzburg were about where I stopped, and if you look at their reputation, 6,950, they just fell under the 7,000, which is the point at which I cut it off. So they are going to be able to continue, but they are down. You know, Salzburg in the 11th place, their league, the Austrian Premier League. So a lot of teams here are caught. For instance, PSV, are they caught? They are. Feyenoord, the other big Dutch team of recent times, also caught. So it's going to be a really interesting one. You're going to see a totally different makeup of European football over this 20-year period. And the way that I'll structure this experiment is that in the first part, we'll go about 8 years into the future, something like that. Just see if we're starting to see that turning tide of European football. Then in the next part, we'll probably go to the end of the transfer ban and maybe see what clubs start to do immediately afterwards. And then if we do a third and final part, it will be going sort of 20 years ahead to see if people have recovered. So please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. There will be lots more experiments to come, and you'll definitely want to see what happens in the second and potentially third part of this experiment as well. And do drop a like as well if you're enjoying this. If you would like to download this database, it is available on Steam. You can play it yourself with Football Manager, take over a team with a transfer ban, see how you do without being able to sign players, or maybe you want to take FC Emmen to the top of the Champions League without those pesky big clubs in the way. I'll put a link to the Steam Workshop download down below, so definitely do that, and let me know in the comments how you're getting on as well. But what I'll do now is just jump ahead maybe 2 or 3 years just to see if we're starting to see a change in tide, and then after that we'll go another 5 years ahead. We are now 3 years in the future, and you can see the first season here, Manchester City winning the league. There's not going to be a lot of surprises in this first league table. It actually looks pretty similar to what you might expect at the end of a normal season, except for Arsenal being in 4th place. The following season, though, we start to see some of the new teams come up. Wolves, West Ham, Swansea all go down. Man City winning the title again. No change in the European places. But in the most recent season, you can see the likes of Norwich and Watford, who aren't under embargo, just starting to sneak up a little bit. And if we look at Norwich, they're still under that 7,000 threshold. So they will benefit from being able to sign players over that period of time. But Liverpool winning the most recent title, still doing really well, only 2 defeats in that period. And what I just want to have a look at is the transfers in the Premier League. If we sort them by fee and go back to that first season, you can see Ahmed Diallo joining Manchester United. I'm not sure how that's happened for £23 million. Somebody in the comments will be able to explain how that's happened. There does tend to be a thing with pre-existing contracts where if they're on loan, for instance, or they have a contract option, they can be exercised even in a transfer embargo. But Burnley, player going out. Fulham managed to pick up Mario Lemina from Southampton, but otherwise most of the players are heading out. Norwich will be appearing on this list a lot, I think, over time. The following season, Carlos Vinicius, you can see again, he was on loan. They've exercised their right to buy. Said Ben Rama also doing that with West Ham. But then you're into Norwich, picking up players, spending about 50 million, trying to really compound their advantage. And young boys picking up Philip Billing from Bournemouth as well. Spartak Moscow, not under embargo. Başakşehir also there. And Boca as well. The South American clubs may do very, very well out of this. The season after that, Ruben Neves moving to Norwich for £83 million. Pedro Gonçalves going. Dendoncker going to Watford. Watford also now splashing the cash. Bournemouth splashing the cash. You can see them appearing. But young boys really trying to make a name for themselves in their European adventures. They will be signing more and more players over time. But there's not too much new going on in the Premier League. Top goal scorer is Iheanacho. Lammers from Bournemouth. I'm not sure who this guy is. Signed for £7 million from Atalanta previously at PSV. He's the second top goal scorer. But then fairly familiar players. Bournemouth have picked up Tonali, which is a pretty big signing. But otherwise no major surprises in the Premier League. Now in La Liga, if we have a look at how they've done. First season, Real Madrid win the title just ahead of Atletico. Bournemouth take the next one with Real Madrid dropping down to third, but still extremely dominant, the big three teams, and that continued in the most recent season as well. But Valencia 5 points behind now. Zaragoza, I think, are not under embargo. No, they're not. So they're the challenging team in La Liga, Zaragoza, and it'll be interesting to see if they're able to get up there. The transfers in Spain, starting with that first season, very little business done. Dinamo are going to be a major challenger out in Croatia, picking up players. There's no doubt about that. Mano Trigueros, the big signing there. But a few players going out. The MLS might do well out of this. The following season, again, not much money spent. Leganes obviously getting promoted. Watford picking somebody up. And then more recently, Guangzhou not under embargo because they're not a European team. So they may well pick up a few big name players as well. Braithwaite moving to Dynamo Moscow for £4.8 million. But not a lot of change there in La Liga. In Serie A as well, I think we'd be surprised if there were big changes. So Juventus winning it at the top there. Juventus winning it again by a massive margin. And then only 1 point this season in it. But Napoli, Fiorentina, we're not seeing those other teams starting to get to the top just yet. It's going to be a little bit more time before that happens. But in the transfers, you can see that Diallo transfer's still there. A few players going out to Brazil or Turkey. More recently, Napoli managed to pick up Politano from Inter. Must be a pre-arranged transfer. A few pre-arranged transfers in Italy. Salzburg picking up someone. And then in the most recent season, Juventus pick up Chiesa. That must be a buyback clause. Because Chiesa did formerly play for Juventus, so I think they're exercising the buyback clause there. I don't know why you're allowed to do that with a transfer embargo. I would imagine that that's still banned, but apparently not. Maybe someone in the comments can let us know what's happening. Bundesliga, are we seeing any changes in the Bundesliga? Bayern Munich, 20-point cap more recently. You can see this team though, Paderborn, suddenly jumping up there. Must have spent a little bit of cash and they've done reasonably well. You can see over the last few seasons not a lot of business going on. Hannover 96 doing well, picking up players. Fortuna Dusseldorf also doing well until they signed Dominik Solanke. But not a lot happening in the Bundesliga at this point. And then in Liga, I'd be stunned if there was an upset already in Liga. PSG. Massive gap as well there. And you're still not seeing those teams come up the table just yet. So a long way to go in some of these leagues. I would imagine there's not been a huge amount of transfer business over here either. at least PSG aren't spending too much money. They're still the biggest spenders in that season, picking up Danilo Pereira. But yeah, not a lot going on, to be honest. So if we now go and have a look at the Europa League, you can say, well, European Champions League, Europa League first. If we look at the stages of this competition and just see, what we're looking at is the kind of quarterfinals onwards. Well, I think first season, it doesn't matter. The final there was actually won by Leicester over Chelsea 3-2. That is a bit of a shock. But then the following season, if we go to the quarterfinal stage, you can see Hertha Berlin are in there, but it's Atalanta, Inter, Monaco and Leicester. Ultimately, that one won by Inter over Atalanta. And then more recently, PSG in the quarterfinals. Benfica beat them. You can see Sporting are in there, but they're under embargo. Ajax under embargo. So these are still teams under embargo, but little bit of a shake-up in who's winning it. So Benfica taking this one. If we go up into the Champions League, that first season, the final, won by Barcelona over Manchester City. Quarterfinals in the second season, not a lot of change, although Athletic Bilbao, doing very well to make the quarterfinals. Semis, they get beaten by Real Madrid. So it's Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, and Real Madrid do take the Champions League that year. And then the following year, Barcelona over Lazio. No shocks in that whatsoever. We go straight to the final. Barcelona win the Champions League. So it's still very traditional heavy here. But what I'll do now is I'll just go 5 years ahead, and we'll very quickly flick again through those league tables and those big European competitions, and hopefully we will see a big change in who are taking home the titles. Starting with the Premier League here, when we left off, Liverpool had just won the title, but the year after that it goes to Man City, but Watford up there in 4th place, finally breaking in. Norwich in 5th place, and then the following year Watford take the title. Norwich take the title. Watford drop down to 8th place, but Norwich have won the title, the first non-big team to actually win that title, and you start to see more and more Premier League teams dropping out of the top now. Leeds also dropping out. Norwich actually retain their title the next year. The top teams look pretty similar outside of that, but Norwich winning the title again. And then again Norwich win the title, but Watford come and take 2nd place. Bournemouth up in Europe as well. Everton, Wolves and Leicester all getting relegated. So those teams have now gone down. And in the most recent season, Norwich again winning the title. Big gap over Watford as well. Bristol City, though, out of nowhere up into 5th place. And West Ham also now out the Premier League. Tottenham in mid-table could well slip out if that continues. But Norwich now with 4 straight Premier League titles. Definitely going to be one of the most dominant teams in world football. You can see Southampton with Obafemi have a top goal scorer now, playing on that right wing or as a striker. Really good that he's managed to come back and win Golden Boot there. Macias, a former Ajax player now with Watford. Marlon, currently at Bournemouth, from PSV on a free transfer. PSV not able to keep him, and he's gone on a free transfer. Jadon Sancho now playing for Watford, joined on a free transfers galore at the moment. Rashford currently at Man City. That's really interesting that they're going on free transfers. If we look at La Liga as well, I don't think we're going to see too much change. It will take a bit longer for the likes of La Liga to be overhauled. You can see Atletico Madrid take that, Barcelona take the next one, still the same top 3, and then Real Sociedad break in. Atletico Madrid drop down to 5th, and then more recently Atletico Madrid dropped to 7th with Bilbao and Real Sociedad up in the top 4, but it's still Barcelona, Real Madrid taking on the titles, and Atletico Madrid actually come back to take 3rd place as well. So La Liga a little bit behind the curve there, not doing a huge amount. If we look at their transfers as well, more recently, the money's still really low. Look, it's 24 million, 12 million, 11 million. They're just not spending money in Spain, which is why those big 3 are still able to dominate. If you look at the Premier League and the transfers being spent there, 83 million from Norwich, 20 million from Norwich, still pretty low there. Watford spending 60 million, the 3 biggest transfers of that season. And then Norwich again go and spend a huge amount. At the top here, Bournemouth with an 87 million signing of Van der Berg from Feyenoord, 30 million spent the following season. So it's still not incredible money, but it's a good amount being spent on players. In Serie A, Juventus' strong stranglehold on the title continued for a little bit before eventually getting broken. You can see they're still winning it though. Milan finally take it, and Juventus drop down to 7th. Don't even qualify for Europe as a result. Still not seeing any other teams really breaking into the top there. And Juventus come back to 3rd, and more recently Inter Milan, Fiorentina, Lazio, Juventus, they're just not breaking in whatsoever at the top of Italian football. And when their biggest transfers are for like 2 to 5 million, 36.5 here was that Chiesa transfer. So they're just not spending money in Italy or in Spain. In the Bundesliga, I would expect it to be a bit different because of their fan ownership structure in Germany. You can see Bayern Munich still absolutely dominating the top of the table before Hannover 96, who, if you've watched previous year versions of this experiment, do tend to do quite well over time, come and take 2nd place. They drop down to 5th. Stuttgart, though, take 2nd. And then finally, Bayern Munich don't win the title. It goes to Hannover 96 at the top there. They are able to take home the title. And just looking again at these transfers more recently, you can see Hannover 96, 2 big transfers. River Plate picking somebody up. Again, Hannover 96, they're always up at the top signing players. You can see Rangers signing players there. They avoided the embargo. I'm not sure that Celtic did. So that could be contentious if I go and check the Scottish League in a moment. But in the French League, it looks like there's been a little bit of a shake-up more recently. So PSG continued that grip, vice-like grip on the title before Lyon actually came to take it. So Lyon finally pipping PSG to the top. But now Nice at the top by 4 points over Lille. Nantes also up there in the top 4. So PSG's dominance very much broken. At the top here, Norwich with the biggest transfer. 2 Chinese clubs with the biggest transfers. It's not a lot of money being spent, but PSG do seem to be struggling. I'm interested what their squad looks like now. They still got Mbappe, Salim Kari. I don't know. He's a regen. So they must have decent wonder kids because he's worth 70 million. 64 million for this regen as well. Quite a few regens in the team. This guy, the new Xavi, signed on a free before the series started. So the value at the bottom end of that team, though, a little bit lopsided, isn't it? So that's probably why they are struggling a little bit in the French league. Now, I am also interested, Portuguese league, what's been going on here? If we look at the past winners, it's still the same old teams winning the title there. Eredivisie, still Ajax winning out there. Turkish league, unsurprisingly, Başakşehir, I don't know how you pronounce that, are starting to take a few titles. We have to drop down quite a bit to find the Scottish league, unfortunately. We will find it eventually. If I look at the competition reputation, I do really just want to check. Where is it? There is the Scottish Premiership. So Rangers won a few, but Celtic have come back. Now, are Celtic under embargo? They're not. Celtic are not under embargo. They didn't have a high enough reputation. So what's going to be interesting here is what's happening in Europe. Are the likes of Celtic and Rangers starting to win the European competition? So if I look at the Europa League, the Euro Cup, and look at those stages going back to where we left off before, we will just go from the quarterfinals. You can see again, no new teams appearing there. That one won by Bilbao, which is a little bit of a shake-up. The following season, AZ Alkmaar in there, Galatasaray in there, Besiktas in there. That one was won by Norwich over Chelsea. Chelsea not having the best record in the Europa League. Braga, Sporting, Leipzig are under embargo, so that doesn't matter too much. But you're seeing Man United and Arsenal in the Europa League latter stages, and you can see Porto winning that one. Now we're only a couple of years away, and Leganes have appeared in here as well in the final. Atletico Madrid taking it over Manchester United, and more recently Bournemouth are in there, Espanyol are in there, Lazio are in there, Sporting are in there, and that one won by Valencia. So Valencia coming to take it. I mean, if you look to that, there's not too many surprises. Norwich, maybe Bilbao and Porto, but I mean, Norwich are the only exception in that list of teams. But what we want to do is just jump up to the Champions League, and if we go back to where we left off, that first season in the quarterfinals, Napoli are in there, but it's pretty traditional, and in the final, Real Madrid still winning the Champions League as always. Watford though make it through and beat Juventus 6-1 in the quarterfinals. We're starting to see that shake up now. Lazio in there as well. Watford managed to get past Manchester United, and in the final, Manchester City beat Watford. No Cinderella story there. Norwich though have a run the next year. They're the only shake-up team in there. They beat Real Madrid in the semis, and then they lose to Man City on penalties in the final. Man City are an absolute curse at the moment. Finally, they're knocked out by Bayern Munich, but Copenhagen have managed to make it to the quarterfinals. That is a real shake-up there. Good to see those smaller European leagues do well. But Norwich and Bayern in the final, and Norwich do become the first team to win the Champions League outside the traditional structure. Get knocked out the next year and things go back to normal a little bit, and Chelsea winning the Champions League this time. So a little bit of a change up to the teams appearing in the final now, starting to emerge, but generally it's the biggest players and the biggest teams still dominating. Looking at this list of players here, Feyenoord have got someone up there. Norwich, Watford obviously appearing in this list. Lyon are there, but it is the same old teams hugging the best players. Norwich though really have started to build a stranglehold. Hannover 96 doing very well. They could be major rivals for that Champions League in the future, but at the moment these are still the familiar clubs at the top of the valuations. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that develops over time. But next time we will go all the way to the end of the transfer embargo and see how this shake-up has progressed. If you did enjoy today's episode, please do drop a like down below. Make sure to subscribe for that next part coming out tomorrow. But until next time, see ya.